Hello again, I'm Rodney Reynolds and welcome to another video review. Today I'm looking at the Corsair HX1000W power supply. What's included is a case badge, 4 black thumb screws for mounting the power supply in the case, lots of cable ties, a pouch with modular leads inside, power cable, and the power supply. The Corsair HX line of power supplies are currently available in 3 wattages, 520, 620, and 1000. I'll be reviewing the 1000 watt model, which has more than enough power even for hardcore computer systems. Now, how is this wattage determined? Well, to understand that, you need to know what rails are. Rails are basically well-regulated transformers which convert domestic current into the voltages that your computer system can use, and there are essentially 2 different rails, the 3.3/5 volt rail and the 12 volt rail. In this particular case, the approximate maximum peak output of the 3.3/5 volt rail is 250 watts and the 12 volt rail is 960 watts, which is essentially how the wattage of this power supply is determined. The 3.3/5 volt rail is responsible for the motherboard, memory, PCI cards, and so on, while the 12 volt rail is responsible for the hard drives, optical drives, fans, CPU, video cards, etc. Also, some might be interested to know the peak amps on each rail. Well, the plus 3.3 volt and the plus 5 volt rails are both 30 amps each. There are also 2 plus 12 volt rails, and they are both 40 amps each, with a combined power of 80 amps. There are a couple of important things to remember when selecting a power supply. The first is wattage. Determine how much wattage you are going to require by the amount of hardware you will be installing. Generally speaking, a medium to high-end gaming rig would require a 500 to 700 watt power supply. For a hardcore system, select a power supply that's around 800 watts. If, however, you are building an extreme gaming rig with a top-of-the-line multiple video card setup with lots of other hardware, then get a power supply that's around 1000 watts or greater. Second, it should be at or above 80% efficient at typical load. The efficiency of this power supply is rated above 80% at max load. Third, it should meet the latest ATX and other current standards, environmental directives, overvoltage, undervoltage, and other protections. This power supply meets all current standards. Fourth, I'd recommend choosing a power supply that has APFC. APFC, or active power factor correction, is something that also assists the power supply in being more efficient and therefore stable under load. APFC basically reduces total harmonics, corrects input voltage, and it allows for full input voltage range. Thankfully, this power supply has APFC. Fifth, there are 3 main certifications: 80 Plus, NVIDIA SLI, and ATI Crossfire. Many of today's high-end power supplies meet one or more of these certifications. This power supply meets the 80 Plus, SLI, and Crossfire certifications. Sixth, look for a power supply that uses Japanese capacitors. This ensures a much more reliable product than a power supply with low-grade capacitors. This power supply uses Japanese capacitors with a 105 degrees Celsius rating. Finally, get a power supply that has enough leads for your setup. Also consider a power supply that has a modular design because it reduces the cable mess inside the case. Let's have a closer look at this power supply. Since this is a 1000 watt power supply, it's fairly long, so it might not fit in some mid-tower cases, and it most likely will not fit in any home theater PC or small form factor cases. It has a rough paint finish and a steel housing. They include a load-controlled, quiet 140mm fan, so the more load, the faster the fan spins. The 140mm fan and the honeycomb ventilation ensures maximum cooling, so the power supply should remain cool in almost any environment. Here's the power cable connection and the power switch. This power supply has lots of leads, but the 24-pin and the 8-pin, as well as 2 PCI Express leads, are hardwired into the power supply and can't be removed. The remaining, though, are flat modular leads, which are very good because they can bend quite easily and fit around just about anything. While this power supply doesn't have all modular leads, most of the required ones are already attached. Modular leads are fantastic because you only need to use the ones required for your particular setup, and this reduces the cable mess inside the case. This not only looks great, but it also increases airflow inside the case. Finally, have a listen to the 140mm fan. For a top-of-the-line multiple video card setup, you really need to have a power supply that's around 1000 watts or more. The problem with some high wattage power supplies, especially the ones that use an 80mm fan, is it can be kind of loud. That's the advantage with this power supply. It uses a very quiet 140mm fan. Also, I love the modular cables that they included with this power supply. They are thin and flexible, and you can bend them around just about anything. Overall, this is a 100% kick-ass product. Until next time, take care.